Hello, good morning. It's Episcopo Squirrel here, also known as Alchemage. And I'm here with another blurry, cool, strange video. Look at those double hands going on. Pew, crazy. Still gonna crack screen! But I realized the other day something that I haven't really paid much attention to. Um, I'm 6 months sober of alcohol now. Uh, it happened really at the beginning of this month. Um, I haven't had a drink of alcohol since, what was it? January 6th was the last day that I drank this year. And, I chose to stop drinking because of my fibromyalgia and how it really has been affecting my pain levels. So, my girlfriend and I at the time were on a break and weren't really talking with one another. But she ended up quitting alcohol on the 1st of January. And so we both quit alcohol at the same time, unbeknownst to the other quitting alcohol. And so both of us are 6 months sober from alcohol now. And, you know, if you've been following me over the past 2 years or so, I've been on for a little longer than that. But if you've been following me, then you know that her and I have struggled quite a bit due to our alcohol usage. And so, having removed alcohol from our relationship, it was like night and day. And I'm extremely grateful to be in a relationship with this woman. We've had some very difficult times, more difficult times than an individual or a relationship should really incur within the first year or two if you're in a healthy relationship. But we weren't in a healthy relationship. Both of us had unresolved mental health issues and also dealing with addiction problems. I've been an addict as far back as I can remember. I think the first time that I started actually using substances to escape my pain, to get fucked up, basically, I was like 12 years old, maybe 11 years old. I think I was 12. And yeah, I was drinking pretty heavily at 12 years old. I wasn't like a 50-year-old fucking alcoholic, but I was an alcoholic at the age of 12. I was drinking almost every day, and I was bringing alcohol to school with me and drinking at school. And so, I turned 31 this year. I turned 31 in about 2.5 weeks. And so that's over half of my life I spent as an addict, as an alcoholic. I've had small breaks here and there, but nothing too long lasting. And after taking this human development class, this psychology class this past term, I made some interesting connections. I was diagnosed with ADD, ADHD when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And apparently I just found this out as well. I thought that I was seeing psychiatric help at that age. But after talking with my mother very recently, turns out that that's not necessarily the case. That I was one of the very first individuals in Prince William County, within the Prince William County School District, to be diagnosed as having ADD, ADHD by the school system itself. They brought a bunch of specialists and doctors, their own group of people, to do like a week of tests or something like that. 2 weeks of tests. I can't remember what my mom said, but it was a lot of testing that they did on me. And in the end, they determined that I had ADD, ADHD. It's not now all. Uh, when I was growing up, they had it as two separate things: ADD and ADHD, where you had one or the other, and then they changed it to ADD, ADHD, but now it's just specifically ADHD. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the just ADHD, so I do ADD, ADHD. There's a slash that goes in there. But that's just me and who I'm with and what I'm about. So the interesting things that I incurred, that I learned over this past term with the human psychology course, was individuals who, so part of ADD, ADHD is that an individual doesn't develop their inhibitory response system. They have issues being able to inhibit actions, to make it so that actions don't happen. Something comes up in their mind, they want to do it, and they just do it. They don't really think about it, it just happens. And this is something that I frequently do. Sounds and just weird things that I do, and I just don't think about it, I just do them. And so this system, it comes to maturation by about 7 or 8 years old. And the main neurotransmitter that is part of inhibition in the human psyche and the human psychology and the human physiology is a neurotransmitter known as GABA. Gamma. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. GABA or gamma butyric acid. Gamma alpha butyric acid or something like that. I can't remember. If you look it up, GABA, all capitals. It's a acronym. You'll figure it out. But it's an inhibitory neurotransmitter, and basically what it does is it makes it so that you have what's called excitation, and you have wow. Excitation is basically the sending of a signal. I can't think of the term for when it drops down. But basically you have what's called an action potential, and this action potential is a electro is an amount of energy, and this is developed by the acclimation of chloride ions within the cell, and this happens from accumulation of acetylcholine, of norepinephrine, of histamine, of dopamine, different excitatory neurotransmitters. And as this energy level rises, it has to reach a specific threshold. Once it reaches that threshold, then the action potential takes off. It excites, and the cell or the neuron sends its signal. And so GABA is basically and why it's called inhibition, excitation inhibition. Wow. I was literally saying the word already. So inhibition is when a positive ions, I think it's potassium. Potassium builds up in the cell due to the accumulation of GABA, And this makes it so that the positive, so chloride ions are negative. And so this negative charge is building, 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 building until it reaches the threshold, and then the action potential takes off, the signal sends. So you have the acetylcholine come in, building up your action potential. But then you have GABA that comes in and brings that level down and evens out the charge. Because like I said, you have the negative charge building, but then you have positive ions coming in to neutralize that. And so people with ADD, ADHD, they don't have the GABAergic response system developed. And so I'm not quite sure if it's a lack of GABA or what's going on there, but because of the poor development and the inhibition stage, it's my opinion that myself and others who experience ADD, ADHD, they have trouble with alcohol because alcohol is a GABA agonist. And so it's helping an individual to really bring their thoughts down to speed and think and be more clear with themselves. And, you know, I've not really done a whole lot on alcohol that I've ever regretted. I've gotten blackout wasted and still haven't done things. I mean, it takes so much for me to get blackout wasted. I've only blackout wasted like maybe 3 or 4 times, a handful of times my entire life, you know, over half of my life, over 15 years of drinking heavily, and only blacked out those handful of times. Mostly those were in Korea when I was drinking more than a person should really ever drink, ever. And but yeah, so like that was one of the things that I always thought was interesting about how people consume alcohol, and they just do stupid stuff. But for me, it makes me think more clearly and be able to actually like focus on the things that I want to do and not do these just random stupid things. So really interesting to me. But yeah, so I'm excited to be sober for 6 months now, coming up on 7 months. And yeah, you know, it's really interesting. It's definitely helped my pain quite a bit. You know, I'm still waking up in pain here and there, but I'm not waking up with these horrible flare-ups that make it so hard to just get out of bed. You know, it only happens to me if I sleep weird or if I'm sleeping on a really uncomfortable bed or something like that. You know, I'll wake up with a lot of pain or just occasional flare-ups. You know, over the past 2 months, I dealt with a really bad flare-up almost like the entire time. But it wouldn't really start flaring up until after I had already woken up. So, you know, it's really interesting because I was expecting a lot more to come from being free of alcohol, but it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot different. And sometimes that is a bit frustrating, but then I look back and see the differences that have occurred and the changes that have occurred within the relationship between my partner and I now that we're sober. And as I said earlier in the video, you know, it's night and day. It's incredible. I was talking with her yesterday, and a couple friends of ours are having relationship problems of their own. And it's interesting to both of us because these different individuals, all in their own respective relationships, they all have some sort of substance abuse that's going on within the relationship. And so it's interesting to us that, you know, if you were to just really stop that alcohol, stop that drug use, that perhaps things might be a little bit different, a lot different, a lot different within your relationship. So, that's just my little 2 cents. I've gone on for over 15 minutes now, and so if you've stayed through this whole thing, thank you very much. I appreciate you watching this and learning a little bit about ADD, ADHD, and GABA, and inhibition and excitation of neurons. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and be well.